Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I am very excited to have with us, as always, Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She has a family law firm out in the Worcester area. She is amazing at what she does. Her and her team are very skilled and knowledgeable about family matters in court. And today we're going to be talking about a hot topic. I mean, we touch on this topic all the time, but it's what's current, it's what's happening right now. So I want to welcome you to the show, Nicole. And I know today's topic is parenting time and parental alienation and contempt, and how all of those topics kind of meld together into a big mess.
I wish I was able to say that this is, one-time thing and it just happens very infrequently. But the reality is, I hear these stories pretty much on a weekly basis. So that's the reason why I think it's an important topic to kind of cover in one topic today, because it's really relevant and there's very intertwined between those topics.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate that. And this is just like heart-wrenching stuff because divorce is difficult, and the kids are trying to understand what's happening, how things are going, and it's hard sometimes for parents, to really keep it professional when it comes to referring to their ex when they're fighting. And you really don't want the kids to hate one parent or another parent, and you don't want to expose them to how you're feeling and what the details are of the breakup and the animosity. And so, I mean, it's all very difficult, but you have to try as hard as you can. So let's say that this stuff is happening and one parent has poisoned the children against another parent. And now the children will not go to their appointed parenting time with the other co-parent. What do you do then?
Well, we're going to assume for purposes of the statement that it's going to be a court order. So if it's not a court order, then really you're kind of at the mercy of the other parent, and your only remedy is to go into court. So assuming you have that court order, then you have to look at it and go, is the order clear and unequivocal? Is there vagueness? Are we talking about every other weekend and we don't have a start date, and the other party's going to say, oh, no, it was the opposite weekend. You came during my weekend. Or is it going to be something clear that says every Saturday at this time? Are you showing up at that time? Or are you showing up 15 minutes early or 20 minutes late? So again, we need to look at what that court order says, because we have to start with, are you doing exactly what the court order says? So assuming you're doing what the court order says, then your remedy might be to go into court. But more importantly, I'm going to say, have a conversation with your ex. And I know you don't want to, but the reality is we have to start there. We need to know what the problem is. We need to understand what's going on. Is it something that that parent is doing? Is it something that the children are saying? Is it something that we're just not going to follow the court order for whatever reason? So we really got to figure out what's going on there to start somewhere to figure out how to move forward.
So what if you're the custodial parent? What are the steps that you should take to make that visit happen?
Again, assuming that there's no real underlying issue, you're going to encourage. Here, Sally, you really want to go see your mommy or your daddy. They really miss you. They want to see you. They want to spend time with you. Obviously, if you can talk to the non-custodial parent beforehand and say, hey, what are you doing with her? Maybe it's, hey, we're going to go to the amusement park, or we're going to go to Apex, or whatever it is that you kind of know is going to happen. Or you're going to a birthday party and you're going to see your cousin. Encourage them. Give them words of, one, this parent loves you. Two, this parent wants to spend time with you. Three, we really, we get to see each other all the time, so there's no problems with that. But you want to show that encouragement. And again, sometimes it's something that the child told you that that parent did wrong. And so again, if you don't have that support, real support, then that's going on. You really have to make that effort, make that encouragement. Go out there, stand on the porch, walk them down to the car, do everything you can to show that you're really making an effort And unfortunately, this child just refuses to get in the car because we need to show some of that. And obviously it depends on the age of the child too.
And that's so heart-wrenching for the parent that wants to see the child too. I mean, just as a result of this divorce. So if you are the non-custodial parent, are there things that you can do on your end?
Well, first thing again, I'm going to tell you is talk to the custodial parent. You know what? They probably know more than you know. Ask them, why doesn't Sally want to come with me? What's going on with her? One day she's fine, next day she's saying she's refusing to come. What happened? Did she tell you anything? Sometimes they tell the parent something. Oh, well, I saw that, he was drinking and I didn't like the way he was acting. I don't know what it is. I didn't like the way he was driving and he was swearing in the car. There are a lot of things that can happen that a kid is just going to internalize for whatever reason. And maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's not. But, talk to that parent, find out what the source of the alleged problem is. And then try to assure the child that, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry it made you feel that way. Some of these things are just, I want to say silly. It's not silly to the child though. But again, when a child's saying, well, you were swearing and you were doing bad things. Well, yeah, you were having road rage. Let's call it what it is. But as a parent, you're not going to say, oh, well, I'm an adult, I can do that. Well, yes, you can, but time and place. You're not going to have road rage in front of your boss and then think you're going to keep your job. So the reality is, why are you subjecting your children to that? If you're scaring your children, admit, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, mommy, daddy made a mistake. Sometimes it happens. I'll try not to do it again. Let's just try something else. So, try to make that effort, figure out what the issue is, and then see if you can resolve that issue. See if you can, kind of put the child's mind at ease. Maybe it's something that, I don't like going to mommy's house because there's shadows in the room and, there's that big hanging thing that makes weird shapes at night. And oh my God. Okay, well, that's easy fix. Let's get a nightlight. Let's move that item out of the room. So again, you got to figure out what those issues are. Some of them are going to be easy fixes. Some of them are going to be really hard. I don't like stepmommy. Okay, well, stepmommy lives with me. I'm married to stepmommy. Well, okay, maybe we don't, go and spend all day at my house. Maybe we go out and do things just the two of us and we only go and see stepmommy at night. Or maybe stepmommy has children of her own and she can do something else with them. So again, there's other ways that we can kind of figure out what we need to do to put that child's mind at ease, but make that effort. Sometimes it's, I just don't want to get in the car and I just want to talk to you. And again, even if they don't want to talk, have the conversation. What can I do for you, Sally, that will make you want to come with me? And unless it's something that you're doing and you're doing on a regular basis, change.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about focusing on the positive. I mean, it's really hard to change. Like a lot of these kids, they've been in one house with the mommy and daddy that they've known their whole lives, and now there's just a ton of change. Sometimes people move a couple times and then they're getting remarried, or maybe just have a few different boyfriend or girlfriends. It's a lot, and depending on the person, some people don't take it slow when they introduce their child to new situations that they're not even sure of themselves. So it's definitely interesting. So can any of this be found as contempt if a child does not want to go with you for your parenting time?
Again, we're going to start with the premise is, are you following the court order to a T? You're showing up at 7:45 and they're saying, no, it's not your time. Well, that's true. You show up at 8:20 and it's after your time. No, you're not. Again, are you following the court order? So we have to start with that. Then we have to look at the age of the child. And then we have to also look at why the child allegedly doesn't want to come with you. I don't want to go with mommy because mommy beat me. Well, it's probably not a contempt issue then. Versus I don't want to go with mommy because I didn't like something she said to me once. Okay, well, again, we got to look at the context of it. And we got to look at how big it is. Is it an everyday occurrence? I had one client who sat there and said, daddy and girlfriend fight a lot. And no, they're just really, really loud people. And I've seen them and I've been in court with them. I'm like, shh, quiet. And it's one of those things that I'm going, they're not even Italian, but they're the Italian voices that are just getting louder and louder. We're just talking over everyone. And so again, are you that type of person? And is your child going, what the hell is going on? Because again, if they're not used to that, and this is how your life is now, it could mean something different to them. So again, we really got to look at that. But the court is going to look at that. The court is going to look at why that child isn't going. Is it some underlying issue that you as the non-custodial parent did? Is it something that the custodial parent did and is doing some type of an alienation? Is it something that can be rectified by, again, the parents actually communicating with the child and with each other and trying to fix the problem? So it's not a simple yes or no. There are cases where it's simple yes or no. I'm not letting my kid go because he doesn't want to, and I'm not even taking him out of the house. You're not even going to see him, and you're not coming. Don't come on my property or I'm going to have you arrested. Yeah, probably contempt. Versus, hey, I'm doing everything I can. The child won't get in the car. So we're going to look at the totality of the circumstances.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's like you want them to do what you need them to do at that moment, but they have all these emotions, and depending on what's happening in the background, you have to really figure that out and figure out how to change the situation. And those are all great examples. So I heard you say the word parental alienation. It's certainly something that we've discussed in the past. So in what context would we call this parental alienation? And if you just want to remind viewers, it might be their first time watching us, they may not know what parental alienation is exactly. So give us that definition and tell us what is the context in which some of these scenarios might be parental alienation.
Parental alienation is basically when you are intentionally doing something to sabotage the relationship of the other parent. You are a deadbeat. Your father is such a loser. I can't stand him. It's making those comments. It's, why would you ever want to spend any time with him? It's that overt nastiness that the child's internalizing, going, well, yeah, why would I want to spend time with this guy if you're saying he's such a jerk? Again, why would we want to spend time with anyone that, we trust mommy and daddy, and if they're saying that this is a bad person, then it must be a bad person. So that's, parental alienation kind of in a nutshell. And obviously we can go into whole depths about that. But, it really boils down to what is the parent doing when we're talking about that. And again, they're sitting on the steps and going, no, I'm not taking the kids out, or no, tell them why you're not going with them. Well, it's that negative statement that you're already making, that you're already setting the child up to say, no, 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 no. So again, where is that coming from? How is it that this child knows that other parent isn't good? Is it something that they witnessed themselves? Again, if it was an abusive domestic relations situation, maybe it's not parental alienation, the child's just internalizing that abuse. But again, is it the abuse that the child witnessed in addition to you making comments about what a horrible human being that other person is? And that's where it comes into play, because ultimately they're tearing down that relationship. They're basically saying that person shouldn't be in your life. And you as a child are going, okay, I guess it's right. And at some point, the child starts believing everything that comes out of that parent's mouth. And that's, like I said, that's when you're going to have the parental alienation. That's the types of cases that judge is going to go, absolutely a contempt. Because of your actions and your inability to act like a parent and look out for the best interest of the child, and instead you're sabotaging the relationship, that's contemptible. That's a parental alienation. And that ultimately can result in the non-custodial parent getting custody because you're just that venomous.
Well, that is a sad situation when that happens. Let me ask you this. What if, obviously people break up because they're not happy in their environment. So one would think they go off and they live somewhere else and they have a new environment. What if the child is just more comfortable in one environment versus the other environment? Just the personalities, just the rules. Some parents might have rules about video games and phone time, that are different than the others, or whatever it is, what they eat, when they go to bed. I mean, playtime with their friends. What are your thoughts on that?
The child might have a say depending on the age, but the child might also not have an opinion or might not have their opinion heard. So the court is going to look at what's in the best interest of the child. You know, I've talked about it before. I'll keep talking about it because it's kind of one of my favorite scenarios. I want to go live with mom and dad. Why? Or I want to go live with mom. Why? Because she lets me have sex and smoke. Guess what? You're going to stay with your father. Because while you're a teenager, you still don't get to make those decisions. You're a minor, and we're not letting you do that. And you're not going to come home pregnant. So I've had that situation, and it's a great story, and it's true. But it's one of those things that I'm going, really? And so again, we're going to let that child have a voice, but that child's voice has to be rational and reasonable. And again, it's going to be age appropriate. You know, if a 5-year-old is just saying, well, because, you know, there's no homework that I have to do at mom's house, and dad doesn't discipline me, and I never get in trouble, and I don't have a bedtime, again, those are reasons that we're going to go, not in the best interest of the child. So we're going to give that child a say, but we're also going to look at, is what that child's saying reasonable? Does it make sense? Are they able to articulate a legitimate reason for their statements? And if they can, and they can kind of follow it up with, you know, reasonable answers to follow up questions, then maybe we do allow that child to get a say. But again, we're going to look at everything that's said and the reason behind it.
Wow. Now, how do they decide if a kid gets a chance to speak? I know we've talked about having an attorney for the child before, but I don't know if we've talked about how that decision gets made, because, you know, kids are all different, and there's a certain age where they will listen to them, but then it's like kind of a gray area for younger kids.
Well, if it's our counsel, it's generally around age 10 or up. And again, it's just what the child is saying, not necessarily what's in the best interest of the child. And again, as our counsel, I'm not going to tell you that the child wants to go live with mom because she wants to have sex and smoke. I'm just going to say that's my client's position, because that's my job as an attorney to zealously represent. But in that particular case, if I had those children and it was a probation investigation or a GAL investigation, I, as GAL or probation officer, would have to disclose that it was said and the reason behind it, because I have to do what is in the best interest of the child, and we need to know where that child's logic is in order to determine what's in the best interest. So depend on what you're doing and who's doing the investigation and what kind of reports are being generated. That's obviously going to tell you. So again, if I'm representing the child and I know that's the reason why, I'm going to vote for an art counsel. If I think that there's things going on and I'm not going to necessarily know, child's just going to mimic what one parent says, then I'm probably going to go with a probation investigation or a GAL.
In any case, it sounds like it gets a lot more serious.
Definitely.
So my point in the interview, where I just say, if you have any issue anywhere close to what we're talking about here, you need to be represented. And if you're in the Worcester area, definitely give Nicole and her team a call. They are amazing at what they do. They are amazing at what they do, and the strategies are fantastic, and, you know, just really trying to get the best outcome for your family. So we'll continue on. There's a few more questions that I had about this. Should the schedule be changed? And can you change a court order?
You can change a court order. The question is it something that we can resolve quickly or not so quickly? And are you the parent that's going, I really need to protect my child, or I really want to enforce a court order? So, you know, you kind of have to look at which side you're on. My suggestion is obviously to talk to an attorney before you decide whether it's going to go through the courts or not. Because yes, you can file a modification, you can file a contempt, you can certainly do any of these things that will effectuate a change to your parenting schedule. The problem is it something that's going to resolve itself in 2 to 3 weeks? Maybe you just do something informally. Hey, Erica, I know that I'm supposed to have parenting time until noon on Sundays, but because this isn't working out, and I think maybe we should just cut it back to day visits for 3 or 4 weeks. Let's see how that works, and then if it works, then let's increase it back to the regular parenting time. So you can do something just very informal like that. Or it could be something that, hey, we're going to try this out for a month and see if this is better. I've had it where I want to go live with, mommy more, and I want to go try it out and live with her for 3 or 4 days at a time. Okay, well, let's try it. Let's see if it works. Because you know what? You don't want to run into court, have this grand scheme of things. You guys come up with an agreement, which is great. And then you go, holy crap, that didn't work. You always want to try something out, make sure it works before you get to a final judgment, because then you're going, okay, now I'm stuck with this and it doesn't work. Oh, well, we just went back to our old schedule. Yeah, but there's a court order. So now whatever parent gets to enforce that court order at any point in time. Yeah, but we haven't been doing it for years. Doesn't matter. It's a court order. So you really want to focus on giving something a chance to see if it's going to work, see if it's going to be beneficial, see if it can resolve the issues in a quick time period, or if it's something that's going to be long-term.
I mean, that makes sense. And I actually haven't heard of a lot of people giving something a try first. Usually people just run right into court. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I don't see this all the time, but what do you see?
I see both. Generally, I think most parties are at least willing to try it. Again, if it's 4 to 6 weeks, that's kind of the general thing of let's try this. Or we've been trying this informally, or something like that, and this works, or we did this and it didn't work, and now we're going back to this schedule, or but try something, at least for 2 weeks, if nothing else, just to see if you can adjust, to see if your child can adjust. Because I had one child that was like a ping pong ball every other day, oh my God, kid had no idea where he was supposed to be, which parent he was supposed to be with. It was like, I don't know anymore. And we thought it was great. We're like, okay, so let's do 3 days. Well, that was even worse. Because now it's, wait a minute, which bus am I getting on? I don't know what I'm doing. And it was really difficult, where again, I'm going, how about we try set days? Mom, Monday, Tuesday. We switch on Wednesday morning. And then Thursday, Friday, we're going to nothing. Oh, that makes sense. And all of a sudden, it's, now as a child goes, oh, I know what day I'm going to school. It's the beginning of the week. I'm going to school. I'm coming back to mom's house. Oh, it's the middle of the week. I'm going over to dad's house. So you're able to make that switch, and they realize that, hey, this is a different day. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays in school, we have gym, we have whatever. And they can equate it to something in school that's going on in their lives to go, yep, I know where I'm going. Because again, it may work for you guys, but it also has to work for the child.
And that is interesting. And now that I think of it, my sister, I couldn't believe it, when she was maybe 12 or 13, she did switch out from living with my mom to living with my dad. And it lasted about 9 months. My mom was kind of guilting her on one side, and she was also going through puberty and wanting to try out makeup and different types of clothes. And my dad was like, whoa, he didn't really have a girl like full time before. It was like 2 weeks at a time, maybe. Before that, her whole life. So it was a huge change, and it just didn't go well for anybody. So she went back to my mom's. Yeah, so that is interesting, but it's a great example of trying something out and having it not work for whatever reason. So why don't we talk about counseling? I mean, that is a suggestion that is often brought up here when people are going through a tough time and a lot of changes. Should counseling be done, and who should get the counseling? Should the parents get it? Should the kid get it? How have you seen it happen, and what works?
I think generally, should counseling be involved? Yes. Who should get it? Really kind of depends on the circumstances and what's going on. I'm a big advocate for, if you feel like you need it, get it. If you think your child's having issues, get the child in counseling. You don't know where that child's thought process are. They're not telling you everything. Maybe they are, but they're not telling the other parent everything, or they're having a hard time telling that parent things. I can't talk to mommy. Oh my God, why would I do that? She's the one causing the problems. Like, and as a parent, you're going, But honey, I've told your mother this, but your mother doesn't believe me. Well, but I'm telling you, you can tell mommy. Yeah, it's not the same thing as you telling mommy yourself. And kids don't get that. So what do? They rely on that parent to say the right thing and to protect them. And you just look like the big fat liar who's trying to do some kind of parental alienation. That's why you take the child to counseling, because at least now the child has an outlet. And if the child discloses something about mommy that is wrong, then DCF will probably be called. But at least you have that avenue. You have something that that child can reach out to. And then, ultimately maybe the counselor reaches out to mommy and says, hey, mom, this is what's going on with your child. Maybe we should come in and have a sit down. So I think counseling can be individual counseling for any of the parties or all of the parties. And I think it also can be family counseling. Again, it kind of looks at what the circumstances are. If somebody is, again, you're saying something negative and mommy is a horrible human being because daddy says so, and I'm believing that, it's got to be at least mommy and dad and child counseling. It has to be. So at least we have to start somewhere. So that child can feel like she's being heard, and mom can listen and go, okay. And it's not okay, but that's not true, because that's not going to help. But that's why you listen to the counselor and let the counselor kind of feed you, how do I respond to this? Which is usually, I understand what you're saying, honey. I'm trying to get better. It's not about, again, you being right. It's about you helping your child.
I mean, this is all fantastic advice. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions on how to avoid these situations to begin with. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, we did an interview on what, dating advice from divorce attorneys. And there was so much good information on red flags and what to do when you're getting into a relationship with somebody. There has to be some really great tips on how to avoid these issues with your child while you're going through a divorce.
And I think, I definitely say that there's a lot of that. I think the reality is you really have to look at not what you want. I know you want to have a life. I know that you just got divorced and it's a fabulous thing. And I know you met this man of your dreams and you want him to be, in your life forever. That's great. But you don't need to set it up that way. You need to look at it and going, okay, so how would I feel if my parents got divorced and this happened? And maybe you can relate to that, but maybe you can't. But you really got to kind of put you in that shoes. And more importantly, you've got to look at it and go, okay, but I was a much stronger kid. I was happy to tell anyone off. But I know that my daughter is super duper shy. She's never going to say anything. So again, is she going to internalize it? Is it something that you go, I really need to have her talk to a counselor? Is it, just again, talking to your ex about these things and kind of coming up with a game plan, being on the same page about certain things? Have the homework time at the same time, have the bedtime at the same times. The more uniformity you can show between the households, the better off your child will be. Because one, they're not going to pit each other against one another. Guess what? I don't get that. I have the same rules of moms as dad. I'm going to get screwed either household. They're going to find somebody else to go to. But have that kind of relationship if you can. But again, look at how mature is your child? How immature is your child? How many lies do they tell on a regular basis? What do they fabricate? Are they a great storyteller, or are they somebody that you really can go, yep, if they tell me this happened, then this happened? So again, you really have to know your child. You really have to know what your child can tolerate. And you really need to know how your ex is going to interact with that child. And again, hopefully you're on the same page as your ex.
Well, that is really great advice, and we appreciate your time. It has been amazing. I mean, these are the difficult topics when your kids are involved in your time and your relationship, because honestly, you can talk about money, you can talk about assets, but time is the one thing that you can't get back, and it's hard to split it up, and you got to make sure that you're making the most of it, and that everyone is as you know, I'm not going to say it's like everything's not happy all the time, but life is there to be lived, and those relationships need to grow, and be positive, and be positive about your ex is being positive about your ex is very difficult, but you have to look at their future relationship with their kid. So if you are toxic about your ex, their whole lives, that relationship is going to be messed up. So I guess for me, it's like hearing all this, I'm a child of divorce. I think the best thing is to not put your kid in the middle. And that's that. And just save those feelings for when you have your alone time and when you're with your friends. You can vent about it then. But definitely don't use your kid as your therapist, which oftentimes happens. Surprisingly, 5-year-old therapists, right? Uh, because that's going to affect them for their whole lives. And that's my thought on it.
And not only are they going to be affected for their whole lives, but they're going to again start believing what you're saying, because they don't know. They don't know to tell you that, Mom, are you out of your mind? Dad's not like that. They're just going to listen. And at some point, again, they're going to start believing. So you don't want to be that situation where your only child is getting married and both of you can't go to the wedding, because that's what's going to end up happening. So again, put that child first, have those conversations out of the home when your child's not there. So don't tell me that, oh, Sally went to bed 2 hours ago. Don't tell me that she's not listening. You don't know that. You're not there. You're not seeing her snore. Because unless that's the case, guess what? She may very well hear it. She may be listening to it, even if she's not in the same room.
So minimize that as much as possible. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for this advice. I know our audience really gets a lot out of this. And thanks everyone for listening. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.